the knife pressed into the soft frosting Jason's warm hand, guiding mine as cameras flashed, and laughter filled the room. On the surface, it was everything I had ever dreamed of our first act as husband and wife united celebrated. Yet as the applause rose around us, my eyes couldn't help drifting toward the empty front row. 6 white chairs, draped with satin ribbons, sat unclaimed. They had been reserved for my parents, my sister, and my closest family. They should have been filled with familiar faces, smiles, tears of pride. Instead, they were a gaping wound carved into the celebration, a silent accusation, in the middle of a room overflowing with joy. Jason leaned close, whispering so only I could hear, "You're doing amazing." His voice was steady, but I saw the flicker of pain in his eyes when he followed my gaze to the vacant seats. He squeezed my hand as if to remind me that he was here, that I wasn't entirely abandoned. The photographer urged us to feed each other the first slice. Jason offered me a forkful with a boyish grin, and I laughed on cue, allowing him to slip the cake past my lips. The guests cheered. Flashbulbs exploded. I dabbed at the corner of my mouth with a napkin, trying to mask the hollowness inside. That was when my phone vibrated in the hidden pocket of my dress. A discreet glance told me everything I didn't want to see. 36 missed calls. One urgent text from my mother sitting at the top of the notifications. "We need to talk now." My throat tightened. For a moment, the air in the reception hall felt too heavy, too close. I slid the phone back into my pocket before Jason noticed, but not before he caught the brief tremor in my smile. "Everything okay?" he murmured, his fingers brushing against mine. "I'll tell you later," I whispered back, forcing another practiced smile for the crowd. The band struck up our song, and Jason led me onto the dance floor. I let him guide me, swaying to the rhythm, clinging to the warmth of his presence. Around us, his family clapped. His mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, and Olivia, the sister I'd always wanted, cheered from the edge of the floor. They looked at me like I belonged, like I was cherished. But the question burned in my chest. Why hadn't my own family come? The answer wasn't simple. It wasn't one moment, one fight, one misunderstanding. It was a lifetime of small choices, of silences, of being overlooked while Harper basked in the light. To understand the empty chairs staring back at me tonight, I needed to go back to where the pattern began. When I was a child, the world outside thought our family was picture perfect. The Davises of Ohio, a suburban foursome with matching sweaters for Christmas cards, and posed smiles at the beach every summer. Neighbors envied us, teachers praised our family involvement. Relatives spoke of us as the golden example. Behind closed doors, however, there was a hierarchy. Harper, 3 years younger, golden curls, bouncing dimples flashing, was the sun around which our parents orbited. I was the satellite useful only for quiet stability. I remember one night in high school clutching the letter that said I had been accepted into an advanced science program. My heart was pounding with pride. I stepped into the kitchen where Mom was fastening sequins on Harper's dance costume. "Mom," I said, breathless, holding out the letter. "I got into the advanced program." She glanced up for a second, her hands never pausing. "That's nice, honey. Put it on the counter so Dad can see it later." 2 nights later, Harper won 3rd place in a regional dance competition. Dad popped open a bottle of champagne, Mom booked a celebratory dinner, and the family toasted our little star. I pushed food around my plate that night, wondering why my own milestone had earned nothing but a passing glance. These weren't isolated incidents, they were the architecture of my childhood. By the time college rolled around, I had learned my place. They skipped my graduation to attend Harper's recital. They forgot birthdays or remembered with half-hearted texts, while Harper was showered with gifts. Every phone call home shifted to updates on Harper, her auditions, her wins, her sorrows. So I built my own world. Naomi became my anchor, a friend who filled the void of sisterhood. Later, Jason entered my life, offering a love that was unconditional in a way I had never known from family. Still, even as I found pieces of the life I deserved, I kept one fragile hope tucked away. That when the big moments came, when milestones marked the story of my life, my family would finally show up. That childish dream carried me to this wedding day, and now the sight of those empty chairs shredded it once and for all. Jason's hand pressed against the small of my back as the music ended. He kissed my temple softly, and the crowd erupted in applause. But as I looked over their shoulders, my eyes returned again to the 6 silent chairs. The unanswered calls, the message from Mom, the hollow ache where family should have been. I didn't know it yet, but the truth was far darker than I had imagined. This wasn't neglect born of distraction. This was betrayal carefully orchestrated. And the person pulling the strings was the very sister I had spent my whole life trying and failing to compete with. When people think of favoritism, they imagine small things: an extra scoop of ice cream, a parent clapping louder for one child than the other. But for me, favoritism wasn't a crack in the foundation. It was the whole structure of our family. Harper wasn't just loved, she was worshipped. From the day she was born, it was like my parents had been waiting for her, and I was just the rehearsal. I was 5 when they brought her home from the hospital. I still remember peering over the crib, my tiny hands clutching the railing, staring at this squirming baby wrapped in a pink blanket. "She looks like an angel," Mom whispered, kissing Harper's downy head. "She's perfect," Dad agreed. I had wanted to say, "So was I once," but I kept quiet, too young to understand why my chest ached. Our house was filled with proof of Harper's perfection. Her ballet shoes hung on the wall like relics in a church. Her violin rested in a velvet-lined case that Dad polished more carefully than he did the family car. The fridge overflowed with Harper's report cards, drawings, recital invitations. If I slipped one of my own awards into the mix, a math trophy, a science fair ribbon, it somehow disappeared within days, replaced by Harper's latest achievement. The living room walls told the same story. Professional portraits of Harper in tutus, Harper in costumes, Harper smiling on stage. My school photos were there too, but tucked into corners, half hidden behind other frames. One Christmas stands out more than any other. I was 14, Harper 11. We wore matching sweaters, Mom insisted. The family photo captured us smiling in front of the tree, but I still remember what came after. Harper unwrapped a new violin, handcrafted, expensive, imported from Europe, the kind professionals used. I opened my box, heart pounding, and found a calculator. A scientific calculator, sure, but still. "Oh, honey," Mom said, as if to soften the blow. "You're always so practical. This will be useful for your classes." Meanwhile, Harper was already tuning her violin, the room filled with her triumphant notes. That night, lying awake in bed, I wondered what it would feel like to be someone's joy. When I finally confronted Mom about the imbalance, it was sophomore year. "Why do you always make everything about Harper?" I asked. My voice shook, but I forced the words out. She was adjusting the hem of Harper's costume again, sequins glittering under the lamp. She sighed without looking at me. "Don't be dramatic, Wendy. We love you both equally." But she didn't, not in the way that mattered. Because loving equally doesn't mean dismissing one child's victories while throwing parties for the other. I walked back to my room that night, clutching my advanced science acceptance letter, and whispered into the dark, "Then why does it never feel that way?" Dad wasn't much different. He adored Harper's charm, her ability to light up a room. "She's just like your grandmother," he often said, "full of life." To me, he offered nods, occasional pats on the shoulder. "Good job, kiddo." It wasn't cruelty, it was absence. And in some ways, that hurt more. Harper herself grew up basking in the attention. She wasn't cruel, not at first. She didn't rub her status in my face directly, but she carried herself with the easy confidence of someone who knew she would always be adored. When she won a local beauty pageant at age 10, she strutted around the living room in her tiara while I helped Mom with dishes. "You should smile more, Wendy," she said brightly. "Maybe then people would notice you." The words weren't meant as an insult, but they lodged inside me like a splinter. By high school, the divide between us had deepened. I spent hours in the library chasing knowledge like it was the only thing that belonged to me. Harper spent hours rehearsing, auditioning, shining under stage lights. At family dinners, conversation orbited around her roles, her costumes, her applause. One evening, I tried to share that I'd been selected for a regional science competition. Dad smiled distractedly, already asking Harper how rehearsals were going. I excused myself from the table, appetite gone, listening from the hallway, as their voices rose in laughter. My news had already vanished into the ether. Naomi once asked me, years later, "Why didn't you ever scream?" "Demand they see you." I laughed bitterly. Because screaming into a void doesn't change the silence. The truth was, I wasn't jealous of Harper's talent. I was jealous of the way they looked at her like she was the sun. I would have traded every award, every scholarship for one moment of being seen like that. But instead, I built myself out of shadows. Reliable, steady, invisible. There was a subtle cruelty in how Harper learned to use her role. By middle school, she had realized that crying earned her instant sympathy. Tears at the dinner table meant excuses for bad grades, canceled chores, extra hugs. I remember watching once, furious, as she wailed about losing a casting role. Dad wrapped her in his arms, promising, "There will be bigger opportunities." Meanwhile, when I cried over a friend moving away over stress before exams, I was met with silence. "Stop being so sensitive," Mom would say, her hands still busy with Harper's costume, Harper's schedule, Harper's world. I can still see Harper at 13, spinning in the living room, practicing her dance turns. "Watch me, Wendy," she demanded. And like always, I watched. Because that was my role, the audience to her performance, even inside our home. Years later, when I stood at the altar on my wedding day, those empty seats didn't surprise me as much as they should have. Part of me had known deep down since childhood that when forced to choose my family, would never choose me. Still the child I had once been, the girl clutching her science award, hoping for a pat on the head, felt the sting as sharply as if it were new. And Harper, she hadn't just outshone me. She had learned to eclipse me entirely. What I didn't know then, what I couldn't imagine, was how far she would go to keep me in her shadow. The first time I realized my achievements might never matter to my family was the morning of my high school graduation. The sun poured through my bedroom window, warming the gown draped across my chair. I'd ironed it the night before, carefully aligning the sash, adjusting the cap with its dangling tassel. I was graduating with honors, something I'd worked years for. A scholarship to college awaited me, along with the promise of a future I had carved out with nothing but discipline and stubborn will. I expected the day to feel triumphant. Instead, it felt heavy, because in the pit of my stomach, I already knew my parents might not come. They had promised, of course. They always promised. But promises in my family were fragile, like glass cups set too close to the edge of the table, shattered by the smallest distraction. At 8 a.m., as I laced my shoes, my phone buzzed. A message from Mom. "Harper has a last-minute recital. We need to drive her to New York. We're so proud of you, though. Take pictures." I sat down hard on the bed, staring at the words. My chest ached as if something had been scooped out. I wanted to throw the phone to scream to beg, but all I did was place the device face down on the comforter and sit in silence. Downstairs, Harper was humming as she packed her violin. Dad loaded the car, his voice cheerful. "Big opportunity, sweetheart. The director might be there tonight." No one even peeked into my room to say goodbye. At graduation, I scanned the rows of proud parents filling the auditorium. Cheers erupted as names were called. When mine rang out, the applause was polite but muted. I looked to the section I'd reserved for Mom, Dad, and Harper, 3 empty seats stark against the sea of bodies. Only one was filled. Naomi, her face lit up with pride, clapping until her palms must have stung. Naomi had been my friend since freshman orientation at college. That day, 4 years earlier, I'd been sitting alone in the cafeteria poking at a bland sandwich when she slid into the seat across from me with an easy grin. "You look like someone who doesn't want to eat alone but doesn't know how to say it," she'd said. I'd laughed, surprised at her boldness. Guilty. From that moment, we were inseparable. Naomi was warmth where my family was cold. She remembered birthdays, showed up at competitions, and asked about my day with genuine interest. She was studying psychology, always scribbling in notebooks, fascinated by people. She noticed things no one else did, the way I chewed my lip when I was nervous, the way my eyes darted when I lied, and said I was fine. "You're like a case study," she teased once, "but you're my favorite one." It should have felt strange having a best friend step into roles my parents ignored. But for me, it was oxygen. Naomi became the sister I'd never had. Still, the wounds of my family's absence bled through. During one winter break, I brought Naomi home with me. We arrived to find Harper rehearsing for a school play in the living room, spotlight claimed as always. Mom and Dad fussed over her costume, adjusting makeup, complimenting her lines. Naomi nudged me in the kitchen later. "Do they always ignore you like this?" I shrugged. "It's not ignoring. It's just, Harper is special." Naomi's eyes softened with something like pity. "Soph, that's not normal. They're supposed to see you too." I laughed it off, but the words sank deep. Sophomore year of college, I won an academic award that included a $5,000 scholarship. I called home giddy, dialing over and over until Mom finally picked up. "That's nice, sweetheart," she said. "But listen, Harper just got invited to audition for a regional performance. Isn't that exciting?" Her voice bubbled with joy, eclipsing mine completely. By junior year, I stopped expecting excitement. I stopped calling with good news at all. Instead, I funneled my energy into my studies and my chosen family. Naomi celebrated each win with me. When I earned top marks in biochemistry, she baked cupcakes. When I secured an internship at a research lab, she showed up at my dorm with balloons. "You're brilliant," she told me often, with the kind of certainty my parents never had. But sometimes in her eyes I caught something else: envy, subtle, fleeting. Like the night she confessed after a few too many drinks, "You always look like you know where you're going, Soph." I don't. I squeezed her hand, dismissing it, not realizing those words foreshadowed something I would come to understand much later. By senior year, I was ready to close the chapter of waiting for my family to notice me. I had worked myself raw for my degree in biomedical engineering. I'd done it mostly alone, and when graduation day arrived, I reserved 4 seats anyway, 2 for my parents, 1 for Harper, 1 for Naomi. I told myself it was different this time. They had promised. They wouldn't let me down twice. But as I crossed the stage, diploma in hand, I saw the truth. Naomi's face glowed from the third row, cheering so loudly heads turned. But the other 3 seats remained empty, like a silent verdict. Afterward, Naomi hugged me, her voice muffled against my cap and gown. "I'm so proud of you, Soph. They don't deserve to see this." I smiled weakly, clutching the diploma that felt suddenly hollow. That night, as we sat cross-legged on her dorm room floor eating pizza, I told her, "You're my family now." She squeezed my hand and said, "Always." And in that moment, I believed her. I didn't know then how dangerous it was to rest everything on the word always. Because always can shift. Always can break. And the people you trust most can betray you in ways you never imagined. I was 26 when Jason walked into my life. Or rather, when I stumbled into his. It was at a friend's birthday party, one of those crowded Boston loft gatherings, where music thumped too loud and people laughed too hard to hide their awkwardness. I was balancing a flimsy paper plate stacked with appetizers when someone bumped my elbow. The plate tilted cheese cubes and crackers teetering. A steady hand caught mine before disaster struck. "Careful," a warm voice said. I looked up into kind brown eyes that seemed to smile before his mouth even moved. Jason. Tall, broad-shouldered, the kind of man who made people relax just by existing. He laughed, helping me steady the plate. "I should probably apologize for saving the snacks instead of you," he teased. I rolled my eyes, but I was smiling. "I'll forgive you this once." That was how it began. Our first few dates were simple coffee shops, walks along the Charles River, a quiet dinner at a hole-in-the-wall Italian place where the waiter forgot half our order. But somewhere between the laughter and easy silences, I felt something shift. On our third date, sitting across from him in a booth, I found myself telling him about my family. Not just the surface-level details, but the raw truth, the neglect, the favoritism, the way I had become invisible. I braced for the usual response. Polite nods, awkward sympathy, the quick change of subject. Instead, Jason reached across the table and took my hand. His eyes were steady, unflinching. "That's not normal, Wendy," he said gently but firmly. "You deserve better from the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally." It was the first time anyone had ever said those words to me without hesitation. For years, I had wondered if I was just too sensitive, too needy, too selfish for wanting what Harper was given freely. Jason's voice cut through all of that. And for the first time, I let myself believe the problem wasn't me. Jason's presence in my life was like sunlight creeping into a room I hadn't realized was dark. He pushed me kindly toward therapy. "You don't have to carry all that weight alone," he said. And when I finally walked into Dr. Winter's office trembling with nerves, it was Jason's encouragement that steadied me. Dr. Winters gave me language for the wounds I had carried: emotional neglect, radical acceptance, lowering expectations to match reality instead of hope. Painful words, but liberating ones. With therapy, I began to stop chasing scraps from my family's table and started building a feast of my own. Jason's family made that easier. The first time I visited them in Connecticut, his mother Linda enveloped me in a hug that smelled of lavender and home. She called me just to chat about nothing and everything, something my own mother never did. His father Robert, a quiet man with a sharp mind, clipped articles from newspapers about biomedical breakthroughs about women in STEM and mailed them to me with handwritten notes. "Thought you'd find this interesting." And then there was Olivia, his younger sister. Outgoing, quick-witted, the kind of person who instantly made you feel like you belonged. She became the sister I had always wished Harper could be. We stayed up late, watching movies, swapped clothes, and laughed until our sides ached. "You're part of the family now," Linda told me one night, handing me a mug of tea. "And in this family, we celebrate everyone's victories, big and small." I locked myself in the guest bathroom and cried, overwhelmed by the simple kindness. Jason found me there, pressing his forehead to mine without saying a word. He didn't have to. He knew. One winter evening, curled up on Jason's couch as snow flurried outside, I made myself a promise. "I'll break the cycle," I whispered aloud, though I wasn't sure if he was listening. He looked at me, brow furrowed. What cycle? The one I grew up in. Neglect, favoritism, making love conditional. Jason brushed a strand of hair behind my ear. You already are, he said, just by knowing it exists. 2 years later, on the anniversary of our first date, Jason proposed. He did it in the most Jason way imaginable, thoughtful, creative, deeply personal. We were at the small, independent movie theater where we had shared our first kiss. Halfway through the film, the screen flickered, and suddenly, instead of the movie, there was a montage of photos and clips of U.S. trips, dinners, silly faces, late-night laughter. Our song played softly in the background. The lights came up, and there he was, down on one knee, holding a simple, elegant diamond ring. Wendy Davis, he said, voice shaking just slightly. You are the strongest, kindest, most brilliant woman I have ever known. Will you marry me? The crowd erupted in applause as tears blurred my vision. Yes, I breathed. Yes. He slid the ring onto my finger, his hands trembling. I threw my arms around him, laughter and sobs tangled together. It was perfect, more perfect than anything I had dared to imagine for myself. That night, as we sat in our apartment with champagne and takeout reality intruded, I have to tell my parents, I murmured, dread pooling in my stomach. They'll be happy for you, Jason said, but the slight hesitation in his voice betrayed his doubt. I made the call the next morning. Mom picked up on the fourth ring. Hi, Mom. Jason proposed last night. I said, yes, we're engaged. There was a pause. Too long. Oh, that's good. Congratulations. No squeal of joy, no questions about the ring, no offer to celebrate. I pushed on, desperate. We're thinking about a spring wedding, maybe 6 months from now. That's quite soon. Well, let us know the details when you have them, she replied before quickly adding. Harper just got the lead in a local theater production. We're so thrilled for her. My news was swallowed whole, overshadowed once again. Jason sat beside me on the couch, rubbing my back as I hung up. See, I tried to joke, but my voice cracked. Even my engagement can't outshine Harper. He kissed the top of my head. We'll make this about us, no one else. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to cling to the warmth of his family, the therapy sessions, the promise of a new life. But deep down, I knew the truth my own family would find a way to make even my wedding about Harper. And I had no idea just how far they would go. The glow from Jason's proposal carried me through the first few weeks of engagement. Every time I caught the sparkle of the ring in the sunlight, my chest tightened with joy. Jason's family showered us with excitement. Olivia insisted on planning a bridal shower. Linda called nearly every day to brainstorm venues Robert offered to help with expenses, even though we politely declined. It was everything I had once imagined sharing with my own parents. But when it came to them, silence stretched longer than the ring's sparkle lasted. I called home a week later, determined to reignite some flicker of enthusiasm. Mom, I began keeping my tone upbeat. We've started looking at venues. We're thinking of a small historic one in Cambridge. It's beautiful old wood floors, stained glass windows, perfect for an intimate ceremony. That's nice, honey, she replied flatly. When is it again? In 6 months. We'll send formal invitations, but I wanted you to hear it from me. She hummed, distracted. 6 months is very soon. Harper just booked a theater run during that time, you know. We'll have to see how everything lines up. Her voice carried no excitement, no warmth. I tried to ignore the sting, but the more we spoke, the clearer it became. This wedding was a footnote in their calendar, nothing more. Still, Jason and I pressed forward. We chose flowers, hydrangeas, and lilies, simple but elegant. A family-owned Mediterranean restaurant agreed to cater. We hired a photographer who specialized in candid shots capturing laughter and joy rather than stiff poses. Each choice felt like weaving threads into a tapestry that reflected us, not anyone else. Jason's family was hands-on from the start. Linda volunteered to help assemble invitations. Robert designed a custom playlist for the reception. Olivia took me dress shopping, squealing, when I stepped out of the fitting room in a white A-line gown with lace sleeves. You look like yourself, she said. That's how you know it's the one. I hugged her, tears pricking my eyes. This is what a sister feels like, I thought. The invitations went out 4 months before the wedding. We mailed them to friends, extended relatives, and yes, to my parents and Harper. Weeks passed with no RSVP. Finally, I called Mom. Did you get the invitation, I asked, trying to keep the anxiety from my voice. Yes, we got it, she said briskly. Your father and I have been meaning to call. We'll try to make it, of course, but you know how busy things get. It's my wedding day, I said, sharper than intended. I would really like you all to be there. Of course, honey. We'll do our best. Do our best. The words landed like stones in my stomach. I tried to involve them, even when they showed no interest. Dad, I asked one evening, would you like to do the traditional father-daughter dance? He cleared his throat. I'll have to check my schedule, Soph. Things are hectic at work right now. The conversation ended there. Each time I reached out, I felt like I was begging for scraps of attention. Naomi, on the other hand, threw herself into the role of maid of honor with fervor. We're going to make this magical, she promised, already planning a shower, helping with seating charts, and whisking me off to appointments when I was overwhelmed. One evening over wine, she looked me dead in the eye and said, "If they don't show up, I'll stand in for all of them. You're not going to walk through that day alone." Her conviction warmed me, but sometimes, just sometimes, I noticed a flicker in her expression when Jason's family fussed over me, something unreadable, a flash gone too quickly to define. I brushed it aside. Naomi was my rock. She always had been. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a blur of fittings, tastings, and planning. Jason's family hosted a small dinner in our honor. They toasted us, spoke of their excitement, treated me as though I had been theirs all along. I smiled, I laughed, I felt cherished. But in quiet moments, when I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, when I held the RSVP list in trembling hands, I thought of my parents. No replies, no offers of help, no enthusiasm. Only Harper's texts, syrupy sweet but empty. "Can't wait for your big day. So exciting." Each message felt rehearsed, like lines she'd memorized, rather than words from her heart. 2 weeks before the wedding, the final blow landed. I was scrolling through Instagram during lunch when my thumb froze mid-swipe. There was Harper grinning ear to ear, her left hand extended to show off a diamond ring. The caption read, "He asked." I said yes. Hashtag future Mrs. Williams. Hundreds of comments flooded the post, among them my mother's, "So happy for my beautiful baby girl. Can't wait to celebrate this weekend." My heart stopped. This weekend. But my wedding was in 2 weeks. Hands shaking, I called Mom. She answered on the second ring, cheerful until she realized it was me. "Harper's engaged," I demanded. "Yes, Patrick proposed last weekend," she said lightly. "Wasn't it romantic? At that vineyard upstate." "Why didn't anyone tell me?" "You've been so busy with your own wedding, honey. We didn't want to bother you." My throat went dry. What about this weekend? What's happening then? "Oh, just a small engagement party. Family and close friends." This Saturday, my voice rose. "That's my wedding day." A pause. Then with false confusion. I thought your wedding was the following weekend." "You RSVP'd," my voice cracked. "You knew the date." She sighed. "Well, Harper has had this date planned for a while. Could you and Jason reschedule? We've already put down deposits and everyone's made arrangements." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Reschedule my wedding for an engagement party. Not even a wedding. "No, Mom," I said, my voice trembling with fury. "We can't reschedule. Contracts are signed. 60 guests are coming. This isn't negotiable." Another sigh, heavy as though I were the unreasonable one. "We'll have to figure something out. But you know how important this is for Harper." "I've been planning this for 6 months," I whispered. "She's known Patrick for 6. "Well," Mom replied, her tone dismissive, "sometimes life doesn't line up perfectly. We'll try to make it to part of your ceremony." I hung up before the rage boiling inside me spilled over. That evening I told Jason, his jaw tightened, anger flashing in his eyes. "They're making a choice," he said, "and it's the wrong one. But our day is still ours." Naomi's response was louder. "That's insane. An engagement party on your wedding day." "You do nothing, Wendy. You let them show where their loyalty lies. And if they don't come, I'll be right beside you." Her words soothed me for the moment, but unease gnawed at me. Because if there was one thing I had learned, it was this: whenever Harper was involved, the ground under my feet was never stable. And I was about to discover just how deep her sabotage ran. The days after that phone call felt like living inside a storm. Every time I glanced at my phone, another reminder of Harper's engagement party appeared, photos of her trying on dresses, moms, gushing comments, relatives, posting heart emojis beneath every update. Meanwhile, my own wedding invitations lay unanswered on kitchen counters, ignored. One night, unable to sleep, I scrolled through Harper's latest Instagram post, her standing in front of a bakery sampling cake flavors. The caption read, "Finalizing details for Saturday. Can't wait to celebrate with everyone who matters." Everyone who matters. The words hit me like a slap. I confronted my mother again. "Do you realize what you're asking?" My voice was shaking as I paced the apartment. "You want me to move my entire wedding after months of planning because Harper decided to throw an engagement party on the same day." On the other end of the line, Mom's sigh was maddeningly calm. "We just want both events to be special. You have to admit, Soph Harper's engagement is a big deal too." "So is my marriage," I shouted, startling Jason, who was listening from the couch. "You're comparing a party to a wedding ceremony. Do you hear yourself?" Mom's tone hardened. "We'll do our best to attend some of yours. but Harper needs us. She's counting on us. I pressed my palm to my forehead, tears stinging. She's always counting on you, and you always choose her. The silence on the line was confirmation enough. Jason wrapped his arms around me as I hung up shaking. They'll regret this, he whispered into my hair, but I won't let them ruin what we're building, not this time. I clung to him, trying to believe it. Naomi came over that weekend, arms full of bridal magazines and snacks determined to distract me. Listen, she said, settling on the couch. If they want to humiliate themselves by skipping your wedding for an engagement party, let them. Everyone else will see exactly who they are. Her voice was fierce, her loyalty unwavering, or so I thought. But later that evening, I caught a flicker of something in her eyes as she scrolled on her phone. Envy, maybe? Or guilt. I dismissed it as stress, unaware of how close I was to the truth. The rehearsal dinner loomed, and still no confirmation from my parents. At the historic venue, the coordinator asked gently, "Will your family be arriving soon?" "They're running late," I lied, forcing a smile. In reality, they were busy preparing for Harper's party. I tried to push the thought away, focusing instead on Jason's family as they filled the room with laughter and warmth. His mother hugged me. His father clapped Jason on the back. Olivia documented everything on her phone as if it were the event of the year. For a fleeting moment, I allowed myself to imagine these were the only people who mattered. Later that night, back at the hotel, I dialed Dad's number one last time. "Are you still planning to walk me down the aisle tomorrow?" I asked, voice raw. There was a long pause. Then Wendy. "I'm sorry. Your mother needs me to help with Harper's party. There's so much to do, and you know how important this is to your sister." My heart shattered. "More important than your daughter's wedding." "That's not fair," he snapped. "We didn't realize the dates would conflict." "There's no conflict," I whispered. "You chose." The silence that followed was unbearable. Finally, he muttered, "I hope you have a nice wedding," and hung up. I stared at the phone until the screen went black, realizing something inside me had broken beyond repair. If not for Naomi's steady stream of texts that night, I might have crumbled completely. "I'll be there first thing in the morning," she promised. "Coffee, breakfast, hair, and makeup, I've got it all handled." Her words were my lifeline. But then, near midnight, another message buzzed through. "I'm so sorry, Soph. Something urgent has come up. Family emergency. I might be a little late tomorrow, but don't worry, I'll definitely be there before the ceremony." A cold unease coiled in my stomach. Naomi never sounded vague. She was precise, dependable, the kind of person who listed details down to the minute. This sudden change, this evasiveness felt wrong. I asked, "Everything okay? Anything I can help with?" Her reply came minutes later. "All good. Just need to handle this. Get some sleep. Big day tomorrow." I wanted to believe her. I needed to. But as I set the phone on the nightstand, the dread wouldn't let go. Unable to sleep, I opened Instagram one last time. There it was, Harper posting a mirror selfie from Bellamy's boutique, twirling in a sparkling silver gown. The caption, "Final fitting for tomorrow's big day. Can't wait to celebrate with everyone who matters." But what froze my blood wasn't Harper's smile. It was the small detail beneath the photo. A comment. From Naomi. "You look stunning. Can't wait for tomorrow." My hand shook so hard I nearly dropped the phone. I refreshed the page, praying it was some mistake, some mistagged account. But there it was, Naomi's profile photo, her words beneath Harper's picture, time-stamped just half an hour ago. The betrayal was undeniable. Naomi, my maid of honor. My chosen sister, the one person who had sworn she'd stand by me when no one else did, was going to Harper's party instead of my wedding. I called her immediately, but the call went straight to voicemail. I texted I saw Harper's post. "Are you really going to her party instead of my wedding?" For a long time, nothing. Then the typing bubbles appeared, disappeared, reappeared. Finally, her message arrived. "I'm so sorry, Wendy. Harper reached out and said how much it would mean if I came. I thought maybe I could do both, but the timing won't work. I should have told you. I feel terrible." I dropped the phone onto the bed chest, heaving. My family had chosen Harper. My father had chosen Harper. And now Naomi, my last ally, had chosen her too. I curled on the hotel bed, fully dressed, tears soaking into the pillow. Tomorrow was supposed to be my wedding day. But tonight I felt like a bride without a family, without a maid of honor, without anyone but Jason left to fight for me. And even as exhaustion finally dragged me into sleep, one thought haunted me. If Harper could take Naomi away from me, what else was she capable of? The rehearsal dinner was supposed to feel like a celebration, a preview of the joy to come. Instead, it felt like a carefully staged play where half the cast never showed up. Jason's family filled the private dining room of the Italian restaurant. Warmth radiated from every corner. White roses adorned the long table. Candles flickered. Laughter rang out as toasts were made. Linda squeezed my hand. Olivia cracked jokes. Robert poured wine generously. But every time my eyes drifted toward the far end of the table, I saw them empty chairs marked with place cards bearing my family's names. The absence was deafening. I smiled when people laughed at jokes, even raised my glass during toasts. But inside, I was unraveling. Halfway through the meal, I excused myself and slipped into the restroom. The mirror revealed the truth. I'd been hiding red-rimmed eyes, a brittle smile that didn't reach them. I braced my hands against the sink, fighting the tremor in my chest. They're really not coming, I thought. Not to the rehearsal, not to the dinner, not even to pretend they cared. My phone buzzed, a message from Mom. Busy preparing for Harper's party tomorrow. Good luck with rehearsal. Love you. Love you. 2 words thrown like crumbs. I shoved the phone into my purse, unwilling to let anyone see how much it stung. When I returned to the table, Linda had discreetly rearranged the seating, removing the untouched place cards. She gave me a soft smile, her gesture speaking louder than words. Jason caught my eye from across the table, his jaw tight, but he didn't comment. His silence was its own shield. He knew that if he said what he truly thought about my family, it would break me further. Instead, he poured me another glass of wine and whispered, "Tomorrow is about us, just us." I nodded, grateful for his restraint, even if my heart was splintering. Later at the hotel, Jason kissed me goodnight before leaving to stay with his best man. Tradition, the groom and bride apart the night before. His last words lingered, "This time tomorrow we'll be husband and wife. Nothing else matters." But alone in the quiet room, the weight of everything pressed down. I called Dad one last desperate attempt. "Hi, it's me," I said, voice cracking. "Are you still planning to walk me down the aisle?" The silence on the line was thick. Finally, his voice distracted, distant. "Wendy, I'm sorry. Your mother needs me here for Harper's party. There's so much to do, you understand." "No, I don't," I snapped. "This is my wedding. The one day I've begged you to show up for me." "That's not fair," he argued. "We didn't know the dates would clash." "There's no clash. You chose her over me. Again." A pause. Then stiffly, "I hope you have a nice wedding." The line went dead. Something inside me went dead too. I sat on the bed, clutching the phone numb. My chest was hollow, my hands trembling. I couldn't even cry anymore. Then Naomi's text lit the screen. "About tomorrow, I'm so sorry. Family emergency. I might be late, but I'll be there before the ceremony." The words blurred. I reread them 3 times. Naomi, the one who promised to be my shield, my surrogate sister, suddenly vague, evasive. "Everything okay?" I texted back. "All good. Just need to handle this. Don't worry. Big day tomorrow." Something about it felt wrong. Naomi was never vague. She was detail-oriented, meticulous, and now she was brushing me off on the eve of my wedding. The unease gnawed, but I told myself it was exhaustion, twisting everything darker than it was. Unable to sleep, I opened Instagram. And there it was. Harper posing in a silver gown at Bellamy's boutique. The caption, "Final fitting for tomorrow's big day. Can't wait to celebrate with everyone who matters." But beneath it, the detail that shattered me, a comment from Naomi. "You look stunning. Can't wait for tomorrow." I froze. The room tilted, my breath coming shallow and fast. I clicked Naomi's profile. Her comment was real, posted just 30 minutes earlier. My maid of honor, the person who swore she'd stand by me, no matter what, was planning to attend Harper's engagement party instead of my wedding. Betrayal layered on betrayal until I could barely breathe. I called her, straight to voicemail. I texted Naomi, "I saw your comment. Are you going to Harper's party instead of my wedding?" Dots appeared, vanished, appeared again. Finally, her reply. "I'm so sorry, Wendy." Harper reached out. She said it would mean so much if I came. I thought maybe I could do both, but it won't work. I should have told you. I feel awful. Awful. The word felt cheap compared to the knife twisting in my chest. I dropped the phone onto the nightstand, staring at the ceiling through tears I couldn't stop. Mom had chosen Harper. Dad had chosen Harper. Now Naomi had chosen Harper. And tomorrow, on the most important day of my life, I would stand alone. I curled into a ball on the hotel bed, still in my rehearsal dinner dress, sobbing until my body ached. My reflection in the darkened window was unrecognizable red eyes, blotchy cheeks, a broken expression. Tomorrow I was supposed to be a bride. But tonight I was just a daughter, a sister, a friend, discarded, overshadowed, betrayed. At some point, exhaustion pulled me under. My last thought before sleep claimed me, was a bitter whisper. If Harper can take Naomi from me, what else is she capable of? And deep down I knew I hadn't even seen the worst yet. The morning light crept through the thin hotel curtains, soft and golden, but it felt harsh against my swollen eyes. I woke in yesterday's dress hair, tangled makeup smudged body, heavy with exhaustion. For a moment I forgot what day it was, then my gaze fell on the garment bag hanging near the closet white lace and satin waiting inside. My wedding day. The thought should have filled me with joy. Instead, it hollowed me out. A knock rattled the door. I dragged myself upright, expecting Naomi's promised arrival with coffee and breakfast. For one hopeful second, I believed she had come to redeem herself. But when I opened the door, it wasn't Naomi. Allison, I blinked in surprise. There she stood, my college roommate from junior year, holding a tray with 2 coffees and a paper bag. Her smile faltered as she took in my face. "Whoa, are you okay?" The kindness in her voice cracked something inside me. I burst into tears right there in the doorway. Without hesitation, Allison set the tray down and pulled me into a hug. Hey, it's okay. Whatever it is, we'll fix it." Between sobs, I told her everything. My family's betrayal, Harper's party, Naomi's comment online. By the end, my throat was raw and my hands trembled from the weight of speaking it aloud. Allison held my gaze steady and certain. "First of all, your family and Naomi trash, at least today. Second, you're not alone. If you'll let me, I'll step in as maid of honor. You deserve someone by your side." My jaw dropped. "You'd do that for me." She grinned, wiping a tear from my cheek. "Soph, that's what friends are for. Now drink this coffee, eat this bagel, and let's make you the most radiant bride Boston has ever seen." Something shifted in my chest. A spark. Hope. The morning blurred with activity. The stylist and makeup artist arrived right on time, turning my tear-streaked face into something luminous. Allison kept the mood light, telling stories from our college days, teasing me about my terrible taste in dorm decor. Laughter spilled out of me, shaky but real. When I stepped into my gown, a simple A-line with lace sleeves, Allison clasped her hands together dramatically. Jason's jaw is going to hit the floor. I studied my reflection in the mirror. For the first time since last night, I looked like a bride. Not a broken daughter, not an abandoned sister. A bride. Almost. The hollow ache remained sharpest when I adjusted the veil. My mother should have been there. My father should have been waiting outside the door, but they weren't. A knock interrupted my thoughts. Allison opened it to reveal Robert Jason's father standing in a pressed tuxedo. "I hope I'm not intruding," he said gently. His eyes softened when they met mine. Jason mentioned, "Your father might not be here today. I wanted to offer, if you'd like someone to walk you down the aisle." The kindness undid me. Tears welled again, but this time they carried relief. "I'd be honored," I whispered. Robert's voice cracked. "No, Wendy. The honor is mine." At the venue, the late morning sun streamed through stained glass, painting the polished wooden floor in jewel tones. Guests filled the seats, Jason's relatives, our friends, colleagues, but on my side, the front row, sat mostly empty. 6 white chairs, untouched. I had known it would be this way, but seeing it still stung like a fresh wound. I handed my phone to Allison. "Keep it. I don't want distractions." She nodded firmly. "Consider it done." The music began. Robert offered his arm. "Ready?" he asked. I nodded, though my throat was tight. Walking down the aisle felt surreal. Gasps rippled through the room, but I barely registered them. My eyes were locked on Jason at the altar. The way his face lit up when he saw me, it was everything. All love's certainty. The empty chairs faded to the edges of my vision. When Robert placed my hand in Jason's, he whispered, "Welcome to the family." Jason's fingers closed around mine, steady and warm. The ceremony was short, but every word carved itself into me. We had written our own vows. Jason's voice was strong, though his eyes glistened. "I promise to be your partner and equal in all things, to celebrate your victories as if they were my own, to stand beside you through every storm. Wendy, you are the strongest person I know. Today I'm not just gaining a wife, I'm building a family where love is never conditional." My tears fell freely. When it was my turn, my voice shook, but I spoke the truth I had longed to say my whole life. "Jason, with you. I've learned what it means to be seen, to be loved without conditions. I vow to never let the shadows of the past dictate our future. With you, I am whole." The applause was thunderous. For the first time in years, I felt chosen. The reception glowed with joy. Twinkling lights, laughter, the clink of glasses. Jason and I swayed through our first dance to at last Etta James' voice wrapping around us like a blessing. Then Robert stepped forward, offering his hand. "May I?" he asked. It took me a moment to realize this was the father-daughter dance I had been denied. I placed my hand in his, tears returning as we circled the floor. "You are family now," he said softly. "That's what family does." I tried to focus on the joy, but a hollow ache remained, especially when the photographer beckoned us to the cake. The three-tier confection stood tall, crowned with fresh flowers. Jason and I grinned for the cameras, guiding the knife together. Guests clapped, cheered. I laughed on cue, but then my pocket vibrated. I had asked Allison to hold my phone, but she had returned it to me earlier during the cocktail hour, insisting just in case of emergencies. Now the screen glowed with notifications. 36 missed calls. From Mom, from Dad, even from Harper. And one message at the top from my mother. "We need to talk. Now." My stomach dropped. Jason noticed the shift in my expression. "Everything okay?" I showed him the screen. "I don't know." His jaw tightened. "Whatever it is, it can wait. This is our wedding." Part of me wanted to believe him, to turn the phone off, dive back into laughter and music. But another part whispered, "What if it's not nothing? What if it's something I need to hear?" And that whisper was enough to pull me out into the garden, phone in hand, heart racing. I pressed call. My mother answered on the first ring, voice frantic. "Wendy, thank God. We've been trying to reach you for hours." I gritted my teeth. "I was getting married, Mom. What could possibly be so urgent?" Her next words shattered everything I thought I knew about this day. "It's Harper," she said, her voice breaking. "Patrick called off the engagement. He said he couldn't go through with it, because Harper told him what she did to you." The night air in the garden was cool, carrying the scent of lilacs from the hedges. Fairy lights strung along the wrought iron fence flickered softly, a romantic backdrop to what should have been the happiest night of my life. Instead, I stood trembling with my phone pressed to my ear, my mother's frantic words twisting everything I thought I knew. "Patrick called off the engagement," she repeated, voice thick with tears. "He stood up in front of everyone and said he couldn't marry Harper. He said, 'Oh, Wendy,' he said she confessed everything." I gripped the edge of the bench beside me, my knees threatening to give way. "Confessed what?" My voice was steady, but inside a storm raged. "That she lied," Mom whispered. "About you. About your wedding. About everything." The world tilted. "Explain. Now." Dad's voice came on the line, next heavy and weary. "Wendy, she told us you changed your wedding date. That you didn't want us there. She showed us text messages proof. She even, God help us, she intercepted your invitation. We thought..." His voice cracked. "We thought you didn't want us." My mouth went dry. "You actually believed that? That I wouldn't want my family at my wedding?" "We should have questioned it," he admitted. "We should have called you directly. But she was so convincing. She cried, said you told her Jason's family was your real family now. She showed us messages we thought were from you. His voice faltered. "We failed you." My breath came sharp and shallow. Fake texts, deleted messages, intercepted invitations. Harper hadn't just stolen their attention. She had stolen my voice, my truth. "And Naomi," I asked bitterly, "why did she choose Harper's party over my wedding?" Mom sniffled. "Harper told Naomi you'd replaced her as maid of honor. She showed Naomi fake texts where you said you only asked her out of obligation and that you found someone you connected with better. She convinced Naomi that coming to the engagement party would spare her humiliation." The final piece clicked into place, jagged and cruel. Naomi hadn't betrayed me willingly. She'd been manipulated, deceived, just like my parents. But the wound still burned. I closed my eyes, gripping the phone tighter. "Where is Harper now?" Dad sighed. "She left after Patrick confronted her. We don't know where she went. She isn't answering calls." Mom's voice broke again. "Wendy, we're so sorry. We don't expect you to forgive us, not after missing your wedding. But we couldn't let another minute go by without telling you the truth." I stared into the glowing garden, the muffled sound of music and laughter from inside bleeding into the night. My wedding reception continued, but I felt suspended outside of it, caught between fury and grief. "I need to process this," I said finally, my tone clipped. "I can't do this right now. Not in the middle of my wedding." "Of course," Dad said quickly. "But can we see you tonight, tomorrow, anything?" The audacity stung after abandoning me. They wanted access on my wedding night. Yet a part of me, the wounded child still craving acknowledgement, whispered that maybe I needed to hear them out in person. "I'll text you the hotel address," I said flatly. "Be there at 11. We'll talk then." When I hung up, Jason was waiting at the edge of the garden, concern etched in every line of his face. "You've been gone 15 minutes, he said softly. "What happened?" I sank onto the bench, burying my face in my hands. Harper lied. She created fake texts, intercepted invitations. She made them believe I didn't want them there. Jason crouched in front of me, searching my eyes. She sabotaged our wedding. I nodded, words tumbling out in a rush. She told Naomi I replaced her. She told my parents I disinvited them. She tricked them all. And Patrick. Patrick broke off the engagement tonight because she admitted it to him. Jason's expression hardened, a flash of anger in his eyes. That's not sibling rivalry. That's calculated cruelty. Tears slid down my cheeks. They believed her. They believed her over me. He cupped my face in his hands. That's on them, not you. And Harper. Harper's broken in a way I don't even understand. I clung to him, trying to steady my breathing. They want to meet tonight, at the hotel. Jason hesitated. Are you sure you want to do this now? We could wait until after the honeymoon. I shook my head fiercely. No, I need closure. I can't carry this with me for 2 weeks. I need to hear it from them. I need them to say it to my face. Then we'll face them together, he said firmly, sliding his hand into mine. Whatever happens, I'm with you. We returned to the reception, plastering on smiles for guests who hadn't noticed our absence. I danced. I posed for photos. I thanked people for coming. But inside, my mind reeled. Every laugh felt hollow, every toast a blur. At 10:45, Jason and I made our exit amid rose petals and cheers. To our guests, it looked like the perfect ending to a perfect wedding. But as we changed into simpler clothes at the hotel, my heart pounded. At 11:15, the elevator doors opened. My parents stepped into the lobby, faces drawn, eyes red-rimmed. For a moment, I saw them not as the gods of my childhood, but as two flawed, desperate people who had made themselves small with guilt. Mom took a step forward, arms half raised. Wendy. I stepped back instinctively, the wall between us solid and high. Let's go somewhere private, Jason suggested, gently guiding us into a small, dimly lit meeting room off the lobby. The four of us stood in silence, the air thick, until Dad finally spoke. We don't expect forgiveness. What we did believing Harper missing your wedding, it's unforgivable. But we need you to know how deeply sorry we are. His voice cracked on the word sorry, but it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. Sorry doesn't change the fact you missed my wedding, I said, my voice tight, trembling with years of swallowed pain. Sorry doesn't change the fact you believed her lies without ever calling me. You were so ready to think the worst of me. Mom's tears spilled over. You're right. We failed you. Not just today. For years. I stared at them, raw fury and grief colliding. Why was it so easy to believe I wouldn't want you there? What kind of relationship did you think we had that made that believable? Dad looked at me, shame etched deep. Because we knew deep down that we hadn't been the parents you deserved. We knew we favored Harper. We thought maybe this was you cutting us off for good, and we thought we deserved it. Mom's voice broke. It was easier to believe her than to face our guilt. The words sank into me like knives. For years I had wondered if I was too needy, too sensitive. Now, finally, they admitted the truth. They had neglected me, and when Harper dangled lies in front of them, they clung to them as punishment for their own failures. I pressed my hands against the table to steady myself. Harper lied. Harper sabotaged me. But you let her. You let her because it was easier than fighting for me. They both nodded, broken. We don't know where she is, Dad said quietly. But when we find her, we'll make sure she gets help. She needs it. I stared at them for a long time, every muscle in my body taut with rage and heartbreak. I can't forgive you tonight, I said finally, voice low and certain. I don't know if I ever can. But if you want any chance at rebuilding this family, it starts with therapy, with accountability, not just words. We'll do anything, Mom whispered. Anything. The silence that followed was thick with the weight of years lost, years, neglected years. And for the first time, I felt the faintest crack in the wall I had built around my heart. The meeting at the hotel ended past midnight. My parents left with tear-streaked faces promising change, but I remained numb. Jason wrapped me in his arms as we took the elevator up, his steady heartbeat, the only anchor in the chaos. Are you okay? He whispered. I thought about it carefully. Not yet, but maybe I will be. The weeks that followed were a strange mixture of ordinary newlywed joy and raw, unhealed wounds. Our honeymoon in Greece was beautiful sunsets, painting the sea-gold ancient ruins, whispering history beneath our feet. Jason and I laughed, ate too much baklava, and made memories that should have stood untarnished. But sometimes, as I lay in his arms at night, tears slid silently down my cheeks. Because even paradise couldn't erase the image of 6 empty chairs at my wedding. Back home, my parents reached out relentlessly. Cards, Flowers, long voicemails filled with apologies. More importantly, they began therapy, individually together and eventually tentatively with me. Thursday evenings became our battleground, the therapist's office a neutral ground where decades of pain spilled out. Dr. Patterson reminded us often, healing isn't linear. There will be progress and setbacks. But the question is, are you committed to the process? Some sessions left me raw, shaking with old grief. Others ended with cautious hope. My parents finally asking me questions they'd never cared to before. What was it like being overlooked? How did it shape you? What do you need from us now? For the first time in my life, I began to feel seen. Not completely, not perfectly, but seen. Harper resurfaced 3 days after the wedding. She called from a hotel, her voice small and cracked. "Don't hang up," she pleaded when I answered. I almost did anyway, but curiosity kept me silent. She admitted everything, fabricating texts, deleting messages, intercepting my invitation. I wanted to be the center of attention. I thought if I could outshine you one more time, I'd finally feel enough. But Patrick saw through me. He left, and I deserve it. Her words were flat rehearsed, but beneath them I sensed shame. My parents convinced her to move back home temporarily. Therapy followed. For weeks I refused to see her. When we finally met in a cafe, she looked different, smaller, her charisma stripped away. "I don't expect forgiveness," she whispered, eyes red. "I just want you to know I understand now how much I hurt you. I'm trying to change." I studied her, remembering the silver dress, the smug captions, the way she had stolen even my maid of honor. My stomach churned. "Why, Harper?" I asked. "Why go to such lengths?" Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Because you had what I never could. Authenticity, Jason's love, real friends. I was the star, but it was all performance. You were the real thing, and I hated you for it." Her honesty cut deeper than her lies ever had. I didn't forgive her that day, but I didn't walk away either. Naomi was harder. When she discovered Harper's manipulation, she was devastated. She left voicemails, texts, even letters apologizing. "I should have trusted you," she admitted. In one message, her voice breaking. "I should have known you'd never discard me like that. I'll regret it forever." For weeks I ignored her. The wound was too raw. Eventually I answered a call. Her voice trembled. "Soph, please. I let Harper poison my trust in you. I wasn't just tricked. I let myself believe it. And that's on me." "Yes," I said quietly, "it is. I'll do whatever it takes," she promised. "If you let me, I'll earn your trust back inch by inch." Rebuilding wasn't easy. We started with coffee once a month, stilted conversations that sometimes ended in silence. But slowly the foundation of friendship returned, not as seamless as before, but sturdier in some ways. Still, I never forgot. And maybe that was the point. Allison, the unexpected savior of my wedding day, became a permanent part of my life. We met weekly for lunches, and she quickly wove herself into Jason's and my social circle. "Funny, isn't it?" She laughed once over sushi. "Naomi was supposed to be your maid of honor, but I ended up being the one who stood by you. Life's plot twists." Her words stayed with me. Plot twists. That's exactly what it felt like. My wedding had turned into a story of betrayal, survival, and unexpected loyalty. Months passed. Seasons shifted. Jason and I settled into married life, learning the rhythms of partnership. Some evenings we cooked together in companionable silence. Others we argued over little things, laundry schedules, bills, but always came back to the vow we'd made: love, unconditional, not like the fragile strings of my childhood. On our first anniversary, we hosted a small dinner at our apartment. My parents came bringing a photo album they'd made, childhood pictures of me, captions of achievements they had once ignored. Harper arrived too subdued, offering a thoughtful gift and quiet presence. It wasn't perfect, the cracks were still visible, but it was something. Midway through dinner, Jason tapped his glass. His eyes twinkled with excitement. "We wanted to wait until tonight to share our news," he said, reaching for my hand. "Wendy and I are expecting. The baby's due in June." The room erupted in genuine joy. Linda cried, Robert beamed, Olivia hugged me until I laughed through tears. Even my mother wept, not the performative tears she once shed for Harper, but something real. My father's eyes shone with pride, and Harper's voice soft whispered as she hugged me, "You're going to be an amazing mother." Later, as Jason and I cleaned up, he asked, "Are you happy with how things are now, with your family?" I thought about therapy sessions, Harper's shaky confessions, Naomi's slow penance, Allison's steady loyalty. "I'm at peace," I said honestly, It's not perfect. It never will be. But we're building something new, healthier, and that's enough for now. I placed a hand on my still flat stomach, and with this baby, I get to do it differently. No favoritism, no neglect. Our child will never wonder if they're loved. Jason kissed my forehead. We'll break the cycle together. As I lay in bed that night, I reflected on the journey. My wedding day had broken me. The empty chairs, the betrayal, the lies, it had all shattered the fragile hope I'd clung to since childhood. But sometimes I realized hearts have to break completely before they can heal stronger. My parents were no longer infallible. Harper was no longer my rival. Naomi was no longer my anchor. Each relationship had fractured, but in the breaking space had opened for truth, for growth, for something new. And me, I was no longer the invisible daughter begging to be seen. I was a woman who had built her own family chosen love over longing and learned that forgiveness was not a gift owed but a process earned. As I drifted toward sleep, Jason's arm around me, the future felt less like a shadow and more like a sunrise. And for the first time in a long time, I believed I was enough.